Shoutouts for this video go to Dave Say, Trevor Rodway, Chris Davies, Love Minis, Horlicks, Frost and Fists, and World of Mike Anderson.
Mind the gap.
Okay, I really don't know what to say about this magazine. Sometimes we get a technical build, sometimes we get a lot of parts, sometimes we get a few parts, sometimes when we get a few parts we get big parts. This issue seems to be none of those. It's a very small number of parts. It's quite a disappointing magazine, which is possibly an unfair statement because I am extremely happy with the build overall. So when I picked this up, I just looked at it and I just thought, oh, is that it? So I rated the magazine 6. The extra mark coming from the fact that we were expecting 2 bits and we did actually get 3, so there's some positivity. So we are going to be putting a wheel together, so what I'll do is I'll have a look through the magazine, we'll check the parts, which won't take very long. So yeah, let's have a look at the magazine. Okay, so looking at the magazine, it begins with a poster from the Green Line Coach Company. It's a poster promoting the 1969 RMC, which is the coach version of the Routemasters. Now I found this one interesting because Green Line Route, I don't know if this is the same Green Line or if it's one depot of many perhaps, but I actually used to work for Arriva. Now the depot that I worked for, being based in Buckinghamshire, was classed as an outstation of Luton, which is kind of a regional headquarters. Luton also used to run Green Line coaches, or Green Line, and they do many routes through Hertfordshire. So I'm feeling that, technically speaking, I worked for this particular company that's advertising this magazine. So I feel a sense of pride in this. And then it goes on to, the magazine continues along Route 15, big article on Trafalgar Square, into the Strand, Somerset House, the Savoy, the Heart of London, and then Nelson's Column, a couple of pictures of buses. And then there's it finishes with some pictures of the number 15 through the years, and it features an H-type LGOC, an S-type, there's an NS-type, then there's the RT-type, the RML, the LT-type, an unusual RMA-type bus on Oxford Street, and it finishes with a destination blind on the number 15 Routemaster. The next article is all about the launch of the Routemasters at the Commercial Motor Show at Earls Court in 1954, and a couple of really nice pictures there. And then it finishes up with a poster from the London General Omnibus Company. It was quite interesting because our first impression was, oh, it's a little bit plain, and then as we read the description, it tells us that there's actually a blank space on it for the bus companies to add the name of the starting point. So obviously it would be a poster for Epsom, and then underneath it would be written, your pickup point will be from, I don't know, the Market Square on Saturday. So nice magazine actually. So let's crack on with the build. Okay, so this magazine is a one-stage instructions, just the one stage to make, and the first thing that we need to do is, well, you need to go back to issues 8 and 10. If you remember, we did the rear wheel, and the first thing that we needed to do was warm the tyres. Now in this magazine it says to place it in warm water, alternatively you can use a hairdryer. Now what I've done is I pre-prepared some boiling hot water just for the stream. So just before I began the stream, I just poured some hot water. The reason I used boiling water was because I knew that by the time I actually came to use it, it would be cooler. Now what I'm recommending here is water that is slightly uncomfortable to put your hand in. So not boiling water, because that becomes dangerous and you can get scalds, but maybe something straight out of the hot tap. Like I said, I used boiling water straight from the kettle because I knew that it would be sitting there for about 10 minutes before I actually came to use it. So we leave that to warm up just for a couple of minutes, and then what we're doing is we're just having a look at the other parts. Now part 18C, which is the rear outer wheel rim, that is metal, but the 18B, the rear wheel rim cover, is actually plastic. Perhaps looks a little bit cheap, but this can be a little modified later on. But the actual main guts of it, the actual rear outer wheel rim, is metal, and I quite like the details. Even has a air valve cover. What do you call it? You know how you pump the tyres up, the air valve. So while that's soaking, we just prepare some kitchen roll. Kitchen roll is probably best for this because it's very absorbent, but you don't get all of the little bits of fibre that you would with, say for example, toilet paper. You could use something like a lint-free cloth, but my personal preference is kitchen roll because it's really absorbent. And then obviously I've got a toothbrush ready, because we need to put our finger into that water. We don't want to scald ourselves, so something just to pick it out with. So there you see, I'm just taking out of the water now. I'm going to give it a nice dry, and really make sure you've got every single bit of water out of this. If for example you missed a bit, it may just be an air vapor at the moment, a little bit of steam in there, a little bit of condensation. Once you pop that wheel in, and obviously it's going to cool down to room temperature, what you're going to end up with is water stuck inside that wheel, and you're not going to get that out because you can't get that wheel back off once it's cooled down. So really make sure that's dried off properly. Okay, so once we've done that, we get the part 18C, the rear outer wheel rim, and you'll notice that there's four nobules, sticky out nobules. Trying to get 2 of those inside, and then what you need to do is hold that down, and then with the bottom of your hand on the other side, just push that in. It might take a little bit of force, just give it a good push. There you see it's gone in. Now sometimes that might just go through too much and you just push it back, and then you see what I'm doing is I'm pushing the tyre in from both sides. Don't push it so hard that it comes back out again, but you just push it in a little bit, push it in from the other side, and there you go, that's done. And that is essentially the whole issue done. So we'll have a little look at the we'll compare it to the finished fuse. Now you need to keep the wheel rim cover 18B safe, because that says that it will be fitted the next issue. But as I say, we'll have a little comparison to the finished fuse. You see, it doesn't matter which way round you get the tyre, because the tyres are absolutely symmetrical. Is that the correct word to use? Basically they're the same on both sides. So that's it guys, that is the whole issue complete. Now we were treated on Facebook to some comments from other users. We'd managed to get this quite quickly, and we were told that the wheel rim was unrealistic. It looked like a dustbin. It doesn't look anything like the real RM. So what we've done is we found an image that we stole on Google. No, we didn't really. We borrowed it. Um, and what we've done is I've opened up half the screen with a picture of the RM wheel, and then what we've done is we've held the wheel rim on the other side so that you can have a comparison. Here I'm pointing out certain parts of the wheel, but I've tried to hold this wheel rim exactly the same way as the image. It's a little bit hard to make a really good comparison because we're comparing a red plastic rim with a black and silver rim, but our general consensus was that actually it looks okay. Now what we were told was obviously we're building a straight out of the factory RM. We were told that factory produced RMs had this wheel rim cover, but what actually happened is when they ran in service, these rims actually fell off and they went bouncing down the road, they went smashing into cars and they hit pedestrians. So after a while, when they fell off, they just weren't replaced. So as I say, we are building an RM straight out of the factory. So we will, well, I personally will be putting this on. I may be doing some modifications to it. I don't know if I'm totally happy with it. Although I've said, you know, on instances before, I'm not totally happy with this, but let's see how it turns out on the finished build. And often when I've said that, as we've built things up, it started to look really good. So I'm reserving my judgment on this one. I really don't want to comment, but I think I'm actually happy with that rim. So I'll leave this up for a few more seconds so that you can be the judge. So looking ahead at issue 19, it says that we will continue the rear wheel assembly, completing the first pair of rear wheels and fixing them to the rear axle. Now this is speculation, but it looks like perhaps issue 20 and 21 is going to be the rear wheel on the other side, which is obviously that's a bad point because we're going to be doing, or we could potentially be doing, a month of rear wheels. So it's going to be a very slow 4 weeks. However, on the positivity side, it means that we're going to be getting those rear wheels out of the way, and once they're done we won't ever have to do them again. So that's a good point, I suppose. So as you're aware, I do like to try and put small improvements into my videos. So I'd like to just put a little bit of a bonus into this video. In issues 16 and 17, we were building the chassis. Now I did notice that there were 1 or 2 people who had a little bit of difficulty pronouncing the word chassis. For example, saying chassis. It is a difficult word. If you, I mean, you look at basic English, ch is pronounced cha. So let me just explain it. Now, in the terms that we're talking, chassis could have 5 meanings. The one that we're actually dealing with is the meaning in the automotive trade, and it means the frame, the wheels, the machinery of a motor vehicle on which a body is supported. It is actually a noun. The noun is chassis, and the plural of chassis is chassis. Now the origins of the word actually dates back to Latin, which is, forgive me if I pronounce this incorrectly, capsa, which means box. This later evolved into the French of chassis, which means frame, and up until that point the English was, they used the word case. And then from about the earliest 20th century, the term chassis was used by all. And Google reports that there weren't many mentions in literature between 1800 and 1900, with the word picking up to about the 1920s, where it kind of leveled off, and then peak mentions sort of around about the 40s to the 60s. Okay, the comments left on this last week's video were by Dave Say, who writes, "Excellent video, Penny, and thanks again for the shout out. Smiley. We all really should give some thought as to how and where we're all going to put or display our buses. Any ideas?" Funnily enough, yes, I do. I began to make a sort of a cardboard box. I am actually really struggling with it. Now I think I don't know if Hachette are going to sell us a display case, but I'm thinking maybe if we make a wooden plinth and maybe just cut some grooves where the wheels will go. I mean, it'll be quite technical to achieve that, but I think that might be a good idea, just to sink the wheels just maybe about 1 mm so it doesn't really show, but it stops it from rolling. I have also found on eBay a little brass plaque that you can get. It's personalized with your name. If anybody wants me to, I'll contact the eBay seller, I'll ask permission, and then we can include that in a future video. But it's going to be heavy, it's going to be large, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be, for me, it's something that I'm going to put on the shelf and I'm just going to leave it. Trevor Rodway writes, "Another superb video, well spotted on the chassis screw error." Thank you, Trevor. Chris Davies writes, "Awesome video and sorry missed the Twitch live." It's fine, Chris. I mean, as you know, I do this every week live on Twitch, and then I do some video editing and I put this out on a Friday. I hope you like the new camera angles this week. But obviously I do appreciate you can't make every week. Love Minis writes, "I cannot believe that the magazine was released with such a big mistake in the instructions." Absolutely correct. That's 2 magazines on the trot now where there's been a problem. Although in all fairness, issue 18 doesn't actually seem to have any errors. However, we did spot a 3rd error, and I wonder how many people there were observant enough to spot it. If you turn to the back of issue 17 and you look at the picture of the coming of issue 18, and you see the magazine cover, if you look at the picture at the front, you can see the tyre and the wheel, and it says the words "arrows and labels to be added." So obviously what they've done is they've added the draft copy of the magazine, and to be fair, we only spotted that one a few days ago. Horlicks writes, "Thank you again for the shout out. I'm glad you agree. I'm glad you are finding the errors and tipping us off, as it will help me so much when I start my build. Thanks, Penny." Now Horlicks has actually begun his builds. He's actually put 2 YouTube videos out, very good quality, a very professional build. I would suggest you watch them. Frost and Fists writes, "That Routemasters was really coming along, my friend, Wolf Brother Menthos." And World of Mike Anderson writes, "Hi Penny, that's me caught up to date with all your fantastic videos. It's very surprising that this is a new part work and already there's misprints. But this can occur in part works. I love the way we jump from wheels to the chassis, then back to wheels, a nice breakup of different sections of the bus." So thank you for that comment. Now, I do have a little bit of news for you. I recently spoke to Hachette regarding the error with issue 16. This won't apply to everybody. I know, for example, some of you throw the magazines away when you've finished with them. But if you recall, issue 16, it actually was lacking a page 10. Now, I personally like to read the magazines. I like to keep the magazines, and I do enjoy. I feel that I've paid this money for them, and someone's put the time and trouble to make these wonderful articles. So I actually do read them. So I was disappointed there was no page 10. So I have been on to Hachette. Now the next subscription pack that is due will be issue, I may be incorrect here, 14, 15, 16 and 17. That's due out shortly, and in 4 weeks time it'll be 18, 19, 20 21. I think I have that incorrect. 11, 12, 13, 14. Right, so 15, 16, 17 and 18 is due out this week. So subscribers should receive that within a couple of weeks. In 4 weeks time we'll have subscriber packs 19, 20, 21, 22, and I've been told that that subscription pack will receive a complimentary copy of the revised issue 16, so that should have the correct page 10 in it. So apparently they didn't actually know about that until I phoned them, so I'm glad I found them. So the lesson learnt there is if there's an error, ring them up, contact them, because obviously they may not know until any of us actually contacts. Regarding the error in issue 17, obviously we all knew about that and we worked around that ourselves. However, they have apologised and explained the correct procedure on their Facebook page. So that's it for another week. To be honest with you, I'm really shocked that I've managed to make a 21-minute video out of a 3 to 6 minute build. I will just quickly go through the ratings. As I said, I gave the magazine a 6 out of 10. I thought I'd be generous with the build time and I called it 6 minutes, so that gives it a 2. No problems with the instructions, and I'm thankful for that, because there was only one part of the instructions, and if they got that wrong that would be terrible. There was a slight part of one of the insides of the wheel where there wasn't quite covered with paint, but I let that one go because I don't think that part is going to show, and there were only parts, so that gives us an overall rating of 62%, which means that this magazine rates number 18 out of 18 of all the magazines. The overall score for the build so far to date is 87.11%, which, to be fair, is still a very good score. So I'm still very happy with this build, and obviously it's going to get better and better as we do things like the floor, the sides. Once we start to do those side panels, and the engine I'm looking forward to, and the seats, I really am looking forward to the seats. Okay guys, so that's it for this week. I will see you all next Friday, and thank you for watching my videos.